Jacob, remember a few months ago when you came on this podcast and announced you were writing a book?
I do remember that.
And then, like, a month later, I came on this podcast and
Yeah, you copied me.
Yeah, I copied you. My contract I signed in 2020. I was copying this man I don't think I knew yet. I knew you. Well, it's been another month, folks. And guess what? I'm writing another book. At my day job this time, which I lost in cult, the beautiful publisher of Jacob's other book. We just announced our new Grasshopper celebration, and this book feels particularly of interest to Something Rotten fans. Would you say, Jacob?
Yeah, remind people who Grasshopper is and
Grasshopper?
why they might care about it.
Grasshopper, the developer of Killer 7, No More Heroes, The Silver Case, Flower, Sun, and Rain, Sine Mora, Frog Minutes, all kinds of great
Killer
stuff.
is dead?
Killer is Dead. I'm playing Killer's Dead right now. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so we are doing this massive box set collection celebration of Grasshopper, 25 years of Grasshopper, and the man at the head of the company, Suda51. One of the video game auteurs. I think one of the most interesting people directing video games. I don't even feel like that's much of a jump to say that. It just feels like an accepted thing at this point.
Yeah.
The package comes with a beautiful book full of never-before-seen artwork. It's really rad. It comes with stickers, pin badges. It comes in a giant box with magnets. Don't let anyone lie to you. The magnets were my idea. I'm so proud of them. It comes with 4 expanded essay books covering key games. That's Ed Smith covering Killer 7, Ashley Barden covering Shadows of the Damned, Diego Archuelo covering No More Heroes, and Cyril Vasquez covering The Silver Case. And
wow, we got to get Ashley on the pod. We're 3 for 4 on those authors.
We really do. Ashley's like my current favorite writer. She's so cool. And then the first 1,000, there's a few left, are signed by Suda of the collector's edition. So there you go.
That's it. Buy that book, everyone. Buy 2 of Blake's books for every one of mine.
lostincult.co.uk. They would have to buy 20 of my books to match what your book made.
No, I was just saying you've written 2 and I've written 1. That was my point.
0.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Something Rotten. This is the season in which we are playing
12,
games with ops in the
13,
title.
42.
My name is Jacob Geller.
96,
I'm joined by
6,
disembodied letters
9,
being chanted
6,
just under the level of dialogue.
6,
Blake Hester,
6.
how you doing?
Did you know there was an episode? I just reminded myself of this. I'm doing fun. This game's fucking insane. Did you know there was an episode of the GI show? This is going way back, the Game Informer show, for those not initiated. When Leo worked there. I believe when he worked there, not when he was an intern. For reasons lost to me, that very quietly, underneath the episode, this is a true thing, Leo is just whispering the word sex, 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 sex over and over. Do you know this? I wish I knew which episode we could point people. Maybe I'll ask Leo and we can put it in the description.
That's
Anyway,
so funny.
I just reminded
you
myself
know-
of that by reading those numbers.
Did you know that the numbers, when they're said by that, like the woman's voice, and there's the little like FMV, that is the actress Emmanuelle Shrieky, who is like been in a bunch of stuff. She's
really?
A very beautiful Canadian woman. Yeah, that's what I'm getting looking her up on Google.
Did you know that the character in this game, the gruff guy, the gruff white man, the gruff white one, that's Gary Oldman? Did you know that, Jacob?
He's two characters in this game.
Which two? I don't even know which characters he is.
He's Reznov and he's Clark.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy who gets shot in in Kowloon. Joining us today, as well as my ever-present co-host Blake Hester, is my friend, the host of the podcast Bullet Time, a video essayist in his own right, and the producer of nearly every YouTube thumbnail on the platform. Hot Cider, aka James, is in the studio. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm assuming it's the thumbnail stuff, which is why you got me on this episode.
Yeah, Black Ops just really seemed like a big thumbnail-y kind of game, doesn't it?
Now, Jacob said you do almost all the thumbnails on the platform. That means you're responsible for the Mr. Beast.
Yeah, no, I go in and I replace every single tooth in Mr. Beast's mouth to make sure that the smile is perfect.
You made sure that all those children he cured the blindness of looked appropriately kind of haunted.
Yeah, no, exactly. He had me in the room like Dr. Dre, and he was just like, we're going to stay here all night until we find the right child for this. And we did pretty quick, which was good.
And so you also are the one who does like the AI generated images for playthrough YouTubers where they make like a character like super sexy and like M-cup boobs.
So funnily enough, not AI. Actually, it was a mistypo. It's actually meant to be AJ, small j, because it's all by James. That's what it's short for.
I love those things when you're searching for like a playthrough of a game and it will say like Dante's Inferno 2020 remake 4K, and then it's just like you're just playing this on an emulator, like they didn't do anything to the game. But then the thumbnail is this like incredibly like contrast cranked promotional picture of the game.
I've been really obsessed with Twitter ads for like musicians who are just feeding everything through AI. Have you all seen these?
I have those.
And their YouTube channels are appropriately insane. Would you believe there's like a pretty direct pipeline between like dudes who do like Christian nu metal and advertise on Twitter and like hard alt-right YouTube channels?
You don't say. That is what a shock.
Yeah, and you do all the thumbnails for those as well.
Right? As we all know, yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those. It's kind of like I think of it as a karma balance. The more like good people that I do thumbnails for, that allows me the allowance to do bad ones.
It's like when I eat an apple and then I'm like, okay, well now I'm allowed to have a pint of ice cream because I ate something healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
James, you have your podcast, Bullet Time. I very much think of as kind of a spiritual sibling to Something Rotten in that a lot of similar games get covered on them. You've actually been through many more games than us at this point, but for people who don't know, the pitch is kind of, I mean, how do you is it like forgettable first-person shooters? Like, what's the pitch?
Yeah, so we it's one of those problems where it's like you come up with a fun idea, but then like the moment that you try and pigeonhole yourself, you immediately want to go and do stuff that doesn't really fit the remit. The way that I describe it to people, and maybe this might be a bit inside, but I guess if people are listening to your podcast, they might get this reference. I've always called it blank check for bad FPS games, including the fact that we do a chart quiz at the end of it. But like the idea was, and again, like kind of in the slogan of the podcast, which is we analyze the shooters that missed their marks. The idea basically began with wanting to look at this kind of weird subsection of games from kind of the years 2005 to about 2010, where basically the dominant genre was the first-person shooter. So stuff like Halo and then like Modern Warfare kind of became like the de facto, everybody wanted to sort of like replicate their success. But the thing that or at least when I started, the interest I had was not so much on those, but it was like all these kind of odd games that everybody tried to make after the fact to like mostly cash in on that success. So like kind of, and we haven't done all of these on the podcast. Some of them we are hoping to do in the future, but some of them we have. But like in my head, like these were titles like Time Shift, Turning Point, Fall of Liberty, Singularity, Wolfenstein 2009.
Yeah,
which
that's
I think
the
a
one
lot of
I
people
was
forget
on.
About.
Yeah,
you were on that episode, and like Haze and Homefront as well. But like the big game that was sort of in my mind's eye of like, how does a game like this get made within this kind of era was Legendary, which is
your first episode.
Yeah, if folks at home don't know what this game is, like the basic one to pitch I can give you is imagine a Call of Duty style like shooter set in modern New York City, but you fight griffins and werewolves.
And it's like, that sounds awesome, dude. Yeah. It's like, I want to play that.
It's a great concept. And again, like all of these are very kind of like, like the thing that we kind of hit upon was that like FPS was kind of like the weird prestige game of this era. Like it was the one that that was the genre that was getting the most money from kind of like publishers, and so there was that opportunity for a lot of people to be like, well, we don't just want to like make, COD or like, Quake or whatever. We want to give this kind of like, a bigger brain or like an interesting idea. And something like Legendary, you can see that as like, oh, this is cool. Like this is mythology. This is kind of like Chris Columbus adventure-y style stuff. But you see everything through iron sights. And it's funny because that game like was developed, and I won't go into too much. And again, we do it on the episode, but it was developed by a studio called Sparkle Limited, who got their start doing the console port of Call of Duty 1.
And they were like, this game would be so much fucking better if we put griffins in it.
Yeah, no, exactly. They were like, the shooting model is good, but like we can't just shoot other humans forever.
Right.
What if we put Peter Griffin in like the biggest griffins you can think of, or just put him in the game and go from there, really? Unfortunately, not a sales success, though, and it has like weirdly been forgotten by time, but we have picked it up and we try as much as possible to expose Legendary and other weird games like it to people who might have interest. But
I mean, just looking at your episode list, I want to do Black on this show.
Ooh,
That's a game that I remember the magazine ad for so clearly, and I was always like, that game, that looks so intense, and then I never played it. Soldier of Fortune is one that actually comes up quite a bit as we're talking about like war games, just in terms of like, Jesus Christ, that's a rotten war game.
So I funnily enough, I have got this highlighted in yellow because you've got me on for Black Ops, and I was thinking like, not that I'm here to pitch episodes of Something Awful or anything, because I'm sure you have a list as long as, a shopping one, but like, Soldier of Fortune is such, I think, for the remit of your podcast, it would be such a great fit, and especially because it's like, it is at this weird intersection of not only like a lot of things that you cover, but I feel like it's so many other games come out of it. Not directly, but just kind of like, I don't think you really get blops without something like Soldier of Fortune.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know of it, right?
I know of it, but just kind of in the like Blake and I have talked about when we were kids searching like goriest game on on YouTube or whatever, Soldier of Fortune would come up, and that like, yeah, you can just like keep shooting this dead body and like it keeps getting deformed.
They pioneered a system for it because it was made by Raven, who were like id's proteges. Like they had done Doom and then Doom 2, but they were like, here's the engine, what can you do with this? And they did like Heretic and Hexen, and then with Quake they did Soldier of Fortune. And they added this thing called the Ghoul system, Ghoul, like one of those classic, we'll come up with a word first and then figure out the background.
Right.
But the idea was like, you could shoot off body parts and keep shooting away and it will do like exposed skin, then bone and whatever. And it was like, that was the selling point of that game, other than the fact that you played as a real guy called John Mullins, who is their technical advisor, who was like this, well, not to speak too much ill of him, but he was like an actual mercenary who like fought in fucking Rwanda and Belfast, and it's like, oh, this guy's interested enough to make a game about. Let's do that. And it's like, oh, yeah. God.
Don't speak ill of the Rwandan mercenary. I'm sure he's only done good things in his life.
I'm just worried if he can find my flat. I don't know if he's still alive though. That's the thing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for the second half of Call of Duty Black Ops, which is a truly bug nuts game in a way that I feel like we haven't covered this style of like insanity in a while, and it just kept going up as we played through. But you're here to talk about all the levels after Kowloon. But James, what was your experience kind of playing through this? Like how recently had you played Black Ops prior to this?
So funny story that you mentioned that. This was the last Call of Duty game that I had ever played.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it makes sense you'd play this game and decide not to play any more of these fucking things.
So just very, very, very quickly speedrun through. Like, I had never played any of the World War II ones, but Call of Duty 4 comes out, and like, I'm in secondary school at the time, and it becomes this sort of thing of like, everyone's playing it, everyone's doing the multiplayer because of the prestige stuff, and I go, well, I gotta hop onto this. play the single player and I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, I'm used to stuff like Halo 3, which is a bit more kind of open worldy, but this is like, oh, this is like a playable action movie. I get this, and everything is its own little set piece, and then obviously Modern Warfare 2 builds on that in the next one, but they're also starting to get a little bit more like, actually, can we do it? Can we get a little bit saucy with the plot of this? Didn't play World of War, the Treyarch game that came out between the two of them, but with Blops, everyone was saying like, well, if you like Modern Warfare, this is the Modern Warfare killer, because not only is the multiplayer better because they have all these different kill streaks and stuff, but it has zombies. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. And like, but then because I'm always more of a single player guy, I'm like, I'm gonna do that first. And yeah, like I did not remember a single thing about this game. When replaying it for this pod, I realized just how little of this game I actually remembered outside of the little twists that it has, and just kind of the broad strokes of, oh yeah, it's Vietnam. Oh yeah, it's like the Cold War and stuff like that. And yeah, so this is, not only is that, was it the last Call of Duty game I played, replaying it for your pod is actually the first time I have played a Call of Duty game since playing Blops when it came out.
It makes sense you couldn't remember what happened in the 10 plus years since you last played it, because I finished this game about an hour ago, and I tell you what, I'm real nervous about having to run down what happened in this game, because what the fuck was any of that?
I have the plot wiki open in front of me.
I funnily enough, I made a note on, I made a giant list of notes, which is why my face is completely blinding out on the webcam, because I've got a Google Doc open. But I wrote a funny headline, which was just that, are Call of Duty games the Marvel movies of games? As in, you play them, you have a really good time, but then you leave the cinema 20 minutes later and you're like, oh, what actually happened in that? I can only remember like the broad strokes of it.
Maybe, but like, I think the problem is like we play Call of Duty games and feel that way, but like large swaths of the audience play them and then they enlist in the army. And it's
I watched the Marvel movie and then I became a superhero, Blake.
I joined the Air Force so I could be like Captain Marvel.
Well, maybe we should talk about Top Gun one of these days. But yeah, I have like a similar thought playing them. It's like for on the one hand, I've played so many of these fucking games. They just start to like roll off me, like especially in the last few years, where like I've kept up with the new ones and had to play many of them retroactively. Like it's like it starts to become brain off after a while. And then the moments I decide to like, my brain is like, let's check in on what's happening in these cutscenes. I'm like, this is not good.
No.
We shouldn't. This is bad as a piece of pop culture. This is actively harmful. And playing Black Ops is like, this should be nuked off the face of the planet. Captain Price from fucking Modern Warfare 2 needs to nuke this game off the fucking face of the planet.
He needs to shoot a nuclear warhead into the stratosphere to create an EMP.
We stay dirty, so Black Ops stays off the earth.
Dude, it's so funny. We played World at War, and I was like, wow, how could they ever get more racist than the Japan sections of this?
Wow.
And then last week, I played the Vietnam section in the first half of this game. I was like, how could Call of Duty ever get more racist than this? And then I played the Vietnam section in the next half of this game.
The Vietnam...
There's just there's everything else couching this fucking
I was
game.
going to say, like, it is funny that we haven't done any of the Call of Duties on bullet time, because it's like, I will at least give this for other FPS developers. They don't really touch stuff like this. For the most part, it's kind of a little bit more head empty, but that kind of ends up being its own ignorance is bliss. Because, yeah, replaying this and all the Vietnam stuff in this, I was like, oh, yeah, it kind of blew me away a little bit in regards.
I have a note from this section where I just say this whole level is disgusting. Is like and I meant it in like the moral sense. I was like, I am sickened by this.
Was this the level that begins with the plane crashing?
I was writing about the boat level.
The boat level and the Russian roulette.
Oh, yeah, so those are bad, but I was thinking of, because I think just after Dr. Clark dies, you crash in a plane, and then you go onto little riverboats, and it is, like, really bad, but then you just go around, and they give you, like, the most gratuitous animations of slitting open people's necks.
Yes, yeah, that too.
Okay.
There's the boat level, the Russian roulette level, and the helicopter level.
Oh,
the boat level is especially heinous because it's set to Sympathy for the Devil, which I'm not sure.
That's I think what I was like, fuck you. Like, I was so mad at the game.
Oh, you didn't like when the helicopter dropped down and Pitbull got out and they were playing fucking Fortunate Son because they have to, because all of the ideas for the Call of Duty games are kind of like, well, military advisors weren't alive for this, so what if we just rip off movies?
Call of Duty is just like what your Republican dad told you the Cold War and Vietnam were like.
Okay. Yeah. Jacob, let's circle back to that. But Fortunate Son just felt like an Easter egg. Be like, you remember like that? Remember Apocalypse Now? Sympathy for the Devil shows up twice in this game. It is the song over the credits. It's a pointed inclusion.
Yeah. And
I think Fortunate Son, like is just like, it's just
and I think it is also, it's like Sympathy for the Devil is like the idea of that song, like they think they're being clever with it because they're like, wow, like Sympathy for the Devil, maybe we should think about like what the CIA has done for us, even though they seem evil. And I'm like, no, I will not give them sympathy.
I think all Call of Duty stories. Now look, dear listeners at home, Call of Duty 2019, one of my all-time favorite games because of Warzone. But like Call of Duty, like these are awful products for culture writ large. But it's like you play like a Infinity War Call of Duty, and like they're really problematic in like nationalistic ways and like imperialistic ways, where it's like this is just what Big Brother kind of thinks. This is just how like the American machine and the American idea operates. Playing Black Ops, I was like, this is like mass shooter vibes.
So
like it feels like it's written that Jacob. Is that okay to say?
I think it's okay to say.
Yeah, I guess you can say it.
It's the game feels written by someone so scared of just the world in ways like you read about in like manifestos.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it is such a cynically written game from like a perspective of sheer terror of honestly things I don't feel exist. Like it feels like a delusional game at times.
My thing with Blops was that, and this was what was sort of building in my mind as I was playing it, but this I feel like is, because again, you said earlier on, I could understand why this would where you would hop off with the Call of Duty franchise. I feel like this is where the turn happens, where Call of Duty goes from being this kind of interesting object of fascination for most people to being like, oh, this is cynical propaganda for the army, really bad. Which is interesting considering that the previous two Infinity Ward games, Modern Warfare, are, hey, here's all the modern tools, here's all the cool stuff that we can do in the army. But like, Modern Warfare 1 feels like a action movie from the 80s where it's about like the Russians are involved, and for the most part it's a manhunt. Like, it isn't really about like fighting an enemy, it's more just kind of like, oh, actually it was a bad guy that was involved in all of this, don't really worry about it, despite the fact that it begins with like a unnamed Middle Eastern country like having a coup d'etat, but they're like, yeah, don't worry about that could happen anywhere. But this is like if Charles Manson made a video game where you do the Helter Skelter murders, and he's like, isn't this great? Like, aren't you having a fantastic time playing this?
Yeah, and I wanted to say with you saying like I think it is totally reasonable to describe this game as like hard to remember what happens, but I do think that Call of Duty Black Ops stands out among the Call of Duties in that I think there are actually significantly more people who would remember scenes from this game than most Call of Duties. I mean, like, the numbers Mason is a meme, and like people do remember like who Reznov is and like the twist with Reznov, and so I do think that this game, it certainly has a more memorable like story than something like Modern Warfare 2 or World at War or many of the future ones, because it is a very like character focused game where it doesn't actually care about like the settings are so just like set dressing, because ultimately this is a story about Mason and Reznov and Hudson and like Kravchenko or whatever, and like because of that I actually think that it is more memorable. Like, I do remember like those characters more so, and I think that's kind of why Black Ops is a sticky game, and a lot of people really like it, or remember it fondly at least, is like the focus on characters does kind of set it apart from the prior Call of Duties, which were so much about just wars, just kind of like big troop movements and that sort of thing.
I think it's the lesson they learned from Modern Warfare 1. As in, like, they do World of War, and it's very much like it's dealing with a part of World War II that a lot of people, I don't want to say don't find interesting because, I don't want to sound derogatory, but like it's the Pacific. It's the parts of World War II that a lot of people don't really think about. But then, like, they see the success of Modern Warfare 1, and it's like, well, what's memorable here? And it's exactly what you said. It's the characters. And they go, well, if we're going to do this, war game where we're going to talk about, we want to set it in Vietnam, but we don't really want to engage with Vietnam. We want to do CIA. You're running around as this conflict is happening, you're technically running around in the background and doing your own little missions. So you don't really have to think of the larger ramifications of what is going on. And I think you're absolutely right. It is that by focusing on maybe only a small handful of characters and having this little twist in it, like I forget the fact that this game came out around the time that Lost was like at its cultural height. So it's like, yeah, of course the numbers were going to kind of figure into that of just like, what a cool little mystery.
It did come out, 8 years after Fight Club or whatever, but we forgive it for that. It came out after Manhunt 2.
That's true. Not that we're going to talk about the beginning of the game, but I did think that the Fincher influence in this game is pretty, like, tight in, considering all of the graphics, like, in between levels is basically ripping off 7.
Sure. I feel like every title sequence since 7 has basically ripped off 7. So, like, we'll give them that one.
It's a great title.
Yeah. Didn't that guy work on Metal Gear Solid 2? Was that something we talked about?
He's still,
really
like,
cool.
if you watch the Death Stranding 2 trailer, it will say titles by that guy. He is still out there doing stuff, and Kojima loves him.
Hell yeah. I mean, he's good. He's good stuff. Yeah, I don't know, man. I fucking hate Call of Duty.
Do you think this will be the last Call of Duty we'll do on Something Rotten?
No, because these episodes perform so well, and also because playing it, I was like, well, I gotta know what the fuck they're up to in these future games. Like the literally, like, the games where they go to the future, but also the future Black Ops. Like, there's, like, such a morbid curiosity I have about COD, even though, as we called it in the last episode, it's like my yearly dick flattening.
Yes, honey.
It's like, fuck, here we go again. Like, no. Like, I think today I was thinking about it. It's like, I'm going to commit to just playing all of the rest of them I haven't played. Because I haven't played Black Ops 2 or 3. I've never played Modern Warfare 3. And then, like, Infinity War Ghosts, I've never played.
Yeah, I've heard that Infinity is the good one. Like, people like that. That was the one that was the most, like, disliked trailer in YouTube history. But then when
the space one.
Yeah, right. But then when it came out, because there were 2 future ones. There was Advanced Warfare with the Black Ops ones go into the future. But yeah, there's the Kevin Spacey one, which was kind of in the future. And then there's Infinite Warfare, which was, like, really in the future and was, like, on Mars and on, like, the moons of Jupiter and that one seems kind of cool.
That one had...
Yeah.
That one had Stabler in it, right? Is that the one?
It definitely has Jon Snow from
it has
Game of Thrones in it.
No, I thought
Black Ops 3 maybe has who's Stabler?
He's Stabler is his name in Law and
he's
Order.
in Black Ops.
I can't remember his name actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, because I've been looking up for that Call of Duty torture video. I was looking up lots of Call of Duty playthroughs, and they would always put his face in the thumbnail. And by they, I mean James, of course, would always put his face.
Yeah, of course. I would put their face in all the thumbnails.
And which is the one with Troy Baker's face in it?
Oh, is that World War II? Oh, no, World War II has
I think
Josh
it's
Homme.
Infinity War.
I think that might also be
Infinity War.
With
Jon
Infinite
Snow?
Warfare. Yeah.
Yeah. Infinity War.
That's
Infinity Warfare.
Because there is a time, and this is kind of, we might have talked about this last week, but, like, at some point, Call of Duty transitioned into having those, like, unbelievably high quality CG story cutscenes, and I'm not sure exactly when that started happening, because they've always used they've used pre-rendered cutscenes a lot, and in Black Ops you can tell because suddenly the screen goes into 720p, and you're like, what am I watching? But like, yeah, with Infinite Warfare, I keep saying Infinite Warfare, and then certainly in like the modern World War II ones, the cutscenes in those games look like
ridiculous
Blizzard cinematics. Like, they are so high quality.
I hate to give it to him, but the one I remember is Spacey. It's the fact that they were selling that game so hard on, look at how high, because it was the first, because Ghost had come out between Modern Warfare 3 and that, and it was like, that was the first 360 one, so it was the first Xbox One, PS4 one, so it was still this transitional piece. But then Spacey was such a demonstration of, look at how high quality his face is, look how much detail that we put into this.
Yeah.
I cannot, for the life of me, remember the most recent Call of Duty campaign I played. I guess it would have been Modern Warfare 2, but I think I have Modern Warfare 3 because I think that's the multiplayer
also,
I play.
A bit weird in that one,
James, Advanced Warfare was weirdly also on the PS3 and 360. But when you look at Kevin Spacey in the PS3 ones, it looks like a mobile game. Like, it's really, they took all the textures out of his face.
To be honest, for a little while you forget it's him, and you know. So if anything, that might be the best way to play this game.
Do you think Kevin Spacey always does those things where he's pretending that he's like Frank Underwood from House of Cards? But like, what if he started doing little YouTube videos in character as his Call of Duty guy?
Well, don't you remember in well, you might not, but that Netflix show he did, House of Cards, there's like an offline where he sees somebody with a PS Vita and he's like, I gotta get
is that a PS Vita?
Is that a Vita?
No.
And he's playing Black Ops Declassified on it.
He plays the video games in House of Cards. There is a scene, because I remember I watched the first season of that show and I was very interested. Yeah. He is playing the multiplayer for God of War Ascension, the strangest game anyone has ever played in the TV show. It's weirder than when they made that light gun version of Rage for Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah. And he plays the multiplayer version of Sonic 06, a game that no one knows, like, barely knows as a multiplayer mode in it.
A great time for culture.
Jacob, did you play Call of Duty Vanguard?
No, that was actually the one,
a good game.
Watching the cutscenes for it, for research for my torture one. I was like, this seems kind of sick, but I didn't play it.
Yeah, the one of the early cutscenes is you falling from the plane into the water. It's really good. It does a seamless transit. That's like the last one in the last like 5 years I've actually enjoyed. I had a good time with that campaign. Maybe we should do Vanguard.
I think we should take a break from this franchise for a while.
Maybe next season we don't even play games, you know? Maybe
we'll
change
watch films. That's a better idea. Films are more passive. It's great.
Blake, you know we love doing this show. Particularly this season, I have not been able to wait to record episodes. I keep messaging you being like, can we do them earlier? Can we do them now?
Yeah, you just keep recording on your own, actually.
Yeah, and here's the thing. For this season in particular, God of War, some of the most kinetic, propulsive games ever made. I feel like you finish listening to an episode, you're like, God, I wish I could listen to the next episode right now. Kratos is climbing Mount Olympus.
God of War, I wish I could...
And guess what? You can if you listen to the show on Nebula. If you go to
Yes, sir.
nebula.tv/somethingrotten, you can support us, support the show. That's great. You get bonus episodes. That's awesome. You also just get them early. You get every episode a week early. And so if you want to hear the next episode of this podcast, whether it's the end of God of War 2, the start of God of War 3, some other episode in there, you can do it. It's available to you.
You also have all the bonus pods. Let's talk about these bonus pods.
I don't want to overstate it, but I have a big...
Please don't overstate it, Jacob. Please don't overstate it.
I have a big old surprise for you on this bonus pod. We haven't recorded it yet. And I'm going to tell you some things, and you're going to be like, oh my God.
I'm scared. I'm excited. I'm scared. I'm worried you're going to bring out the chains of Olympus and stab me in the throat like a minotaur.
Watch out. Yeah, and some of our previous bonus episodes, which you can listen to all of them if you sign up for Nebula, there's some of our best work. We got bonus with Noah Caldwell-Gervais on there. Got bonus with Gareth Damian Martin. We got bonuses with who else? Some of our esteemed guests.
Mike Mahardy.
We go through the entire plot of Alan Wake 2. Remember we did that?
Annie Geller.
That's Blake. Respect her. She hasn't taken my last name.
I didn't know if it was okay to say her last name.
Yeah, Annie Maynard on her Instagram. The Annie that I talk about all the time. She
the
did an
Annie.
episode.
This motherfucker just called the love of his life the Annie.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Annie.
This man's not getting married.
What do you mean I'm honoring her? There's only one.
You can't say the
Annie.
Annie. Like she's a sponge. The sponge. I don't know why the sponge was the first item I went to.
So anyway,
Yeah,
nebula.tv/somethingrotten. We got a bunch of good stuff out there. Check it out.
Oh yeah.
I will say, to bring this back to Blops, to speak of the animation, this is the game where it does kind of feel like they are feeling themselves a little bit with mocap, because all of the executions, which I forgot how much of Call of Duty in this era of FPS games is so much like you can watch but you can't touch, and it's very like kind of early, like sort of digital theater kind of thing of just like you just stand in a room and watch people do stuff. But yeah, I forget how much of this is like on rails. You watch Gary Oldman's character do like the sickest executions.
I remember in the kind of like mid 2000s mild homophobia games writing, people would be like, Black Ops is just a game where you're looking at the word follow on a guy's ass. Like, that's what I remember games writing being like, basically that. And I was playing it and I was like, that is not inaccurate. Like, this does feel like one of those games that's cemented. Like, Call of Duty is when there's an objective marker and it says follow on a guy in front of you, and you just do that for a level.
It's like you've gone to Vietnam on a tour guide and they're taking you to all of the best shootout sections.
Yeah.
And then when you get there, it turns into like wild guns on the SNES, because all you have to do is just stay in place and crouch and do a little bit of cover fire. It's God, it is such a playing this is such a flashback to like how like this was considered the highest quality FPS that you could get at the time, and it's like
I'll be honest, the moments I was playing this game, I had a blast.
Oh sure.
My problem with this game is not playing it. I was having a lot of fucking fun. I hate this game.
What?
The problem with Call of Duty is they're so fun, and then they put in anything in between.
The problem is that when your dick's just getting flattened, you're like, this is pretty good gameplay.
This feels alright.
I would love Call of Duties if they were just gray box rooms I could shoot fucking gray.
You would want to play the
box
prototype
in.
versions of Call of Duty before any of the cutscenes,
Exactly.
any of the voice actors are hired.
Yeah. My problem with Call of Duty is not playing ever. That rocks.
Yeah.
So when we last left off, we had just played a level in Kowloon City for kind of no reason. We found a guy named Clark who was obsessed with numbers, and then he got shot, and he had made a chemical weapon. The first level in this section is kind of interesting because you're playing as Reznov, and you're playing in some snow place that I just wrote down in my notes. Antarctica?
You go to the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, but it's in like Canada somewhere. It's somewhere snowy and cold. But yeah, it's a kind of cool level. You're killing Nazis as Reznov and the kind of like remainder of the Soviet army. There is stuff in this that is similar to what we talked about in World at War, where there are interesting things where like someone's like they're trying to surrender, and then other people on your team are like, don't let them. And so again, it is this like the Soviet army is like pretty fucking scary, you know, and it's like you kill 1 million Vietnamese people as an American soldier in this. None of them are trying to surrender. You know, like that is something that they leave for these levels. So Reznov is still taking orders from Dragovich. I always confuse Dragovich and Kravchenko. He's taking orders from Dragovich. They're supposed to find Steiner but not kill them. There's the scene where while Dragovich is talking, Kravchenko is to the side executing POWs, and it's like,
with a revolver.
He kills 6 of them with his revolver, and then the last one, he's out of bullets, and so he kills him with his knife. And the game, it kind of feels like the game wants you to be like, oh my god, this guy's so fucked up. He just executed a guy with a knife, and I was like, I nearly sawed a dude's head off with a knife, like one level before this. I'm not going to be horrified by this guy's actions.
Also, I'll say this, at least because it's set during, it's kind of, you can sort of tell it's at the tail end of World War II. So this is kind of what I thought was interesting about this, but I'll get this point very as quickly as possible. But like, it is like they're basically saying, oh, hey, you played Call of Duty 3, you played World of War, so you won the Battle of Berlin, you did all this stuff, like, good job, Reznov, but hey, we got one more mission for you to do, and, there's all these Nazis here, but don't kill Steiner, keep him alive, because we need to, like, he has a thing that we need, but keep him alive as long as possible. And I found this such an interesting thing of just, like, because obviously Modern Warfare tried to do the thing of, well, it's set in the real world, like, this could be happening, this is happening overseas, you have no real idea sort of thing, but it's like, yeah, but like, none of this feels particularly like tangible or sticky. I think they're doing a more interesting thing here of being like, well, this is our fictional Call of Duty, but this is kind of like, this is still real history. And the way they're doing that is by tying it into, hey, you remember that war that we keep making games about? And you remember those characters that you actually played as previous ones? This is how we establish the stakes of, no, Black Ops is like, that Black Ops actually happened, or, wink, wink.
Yeah, well, and I think it's funny because it kind of feels like there has been this uncomfortable separation where the Call of Duties in the past you play as the Soviets, and then the Call of Duties in the present, you're fighting the Russians. And it's like, well, when did that happen? And Black Ops seems to be going like right here. This is when, this is the moment where they went from being our friends to being our enemies. And then you play as Reznov.
And it was two guys.
It was two guys.
It was only two guys that did it.
Yeah. But there is this interesting part in this level where, so you reach this, like, the ship locked in the ice. It's got a horrible chemical weapon on it. And you realize, like, oh, that's what they're searching for. It was like the Nazis' biggest weapon. And you, as Reznov, you watch a bunch of your comrades get, like, executed via poison gas. And then you decide to blow up the ship. But on the way, British commandos arrive and you do kill them. And I thought that was actually, like, pretty interesting because that part, I think, was not framed as, like, a moral bad. I'm having trouble thinking of another time where you, like, kill British army officers in a Call of Duty and they're like, this is the right thing to do. And, like, that is happening here, which seems kind of ballsy for them.
It's personal motivation, because the guy who you see executed and, like, melted by this acid is Petrenko, who is he's your buddy in World of War. And weirdly enough, in that game, like, he has this weird thing that you think he dies multiple times, but then he's like, no, I'm okay, comrade. And it's like, he cheated death again. But not in this one. So it is this very kind of cynical point that they're making of, welcome to the modern age, fucko. Like, this isn't about, like, fighting on ideology anymore. It's about guys with weapons, it's manhunts and stuff. And again, like, it becomes this interesting thing for Reznov where the switch turns to being, well, actually, I don't really want to be the hero of Russia if this is the Russia that I'm fighting for. I'd rather, like, I know that this is a bad thing, and if the Brits want it, they gotta die. Which they managed to also fit in a nice Leon the Professional reference, where one of his guys goes, who do we fight? And he goes, everyone!
Is that I haven't seen Leon.
Oh yeah, no. There's so in Leon he plays a drug addict, like, detective, and he's just like, I want everybody round up, and one of his guys goes, who do you mean? And he just screams at him, everyone.
That movie now has a reputation of being like one of
the
most evil
that's
pieces
not
of media, right?
Yeah, no. Luc Besson put him in prison.
You ever played Onimusha 3, Jacob?
No, I've watched the beginning cutscene.
He's in that.
Yeah,
game.
Jean Reno
cool.
is.
I thought you meant Luc Besson.
not Luc Besson. Sorry, wrong person. Jean Reno. I'll circle back to what something you were talking about, Jacob. An interesting thing about you were talking about the executions. Where you shoot 6 guys, stabs them, and the game's like, oh. There's a moment later in the game where you're, like, killing dudes with hatchets, and it's, like, really brutal, and there's, like, a moment where you, like, get your hatchet stuck in a guy's arm, and, like, this is the moment leading up to where you realize Mason has not actually had a Russian sidekick. It's actually, he's been Fight Clubbed, he's been Manhunt 2'd. So I think the brutality there is very pointed, because it's leading up to that twist. And, like, all the moments where Call of Duty tries to shock you with violence always feel so, like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
And yet, that's not to say violence in Call of Duty isn't shocking. I just think the most offensive or shocking violence in Call of Duty Call of Duty doesn't think is
Yeah,
violent
like,
or offensive. That being, sorry, to bring it up again, that being the Vietnam levels in this game, or the Japan levels in World at War, where it's like, this is what the developers think. These are like the badass fantasies in this game, where you get to be in a fucking attack helicopter or this boat thing that just literally destroys an entire countryside. And like, that's heinous. That is hard to watch. But for the game that's like, oh, we'll sneak some guitar riffs in here, it'd be pretty badass. It's like, yeah, I don't give a shit that 6 people got shot with a revolver. You made me do the most racist shit in video game history 20 minutes ago.
No, there's that part in the Vietnam boat level where you're going, you have the world's most powerful minigun, and like fucking Hudson standing on it with a rocket
with
launcher
a bazooka,
called what is it called? It's not called Death Machine, because that's it's called like Doombringer or some fucking shit. And you're yelling like, yeah, shred those fuckers. And then like at the end, like the kid who was your gunner dies. And you flash back to Mason being interrogated. And it's like, hey, he said he never cried, but I swear I saw tears. And I was like, I don't have any sympathy for this guy. He just killed 10,000 Vietnamese people.
And it's so interesting. Like the dissonance there between the I guess narrative creatives of the Call of Duty games, wherever that is coming from, but also like mechanically, I hate to say it, those levels are fucking fun. Like, they're so fucking fun. Like, they just feel so good, and it's clear the creators of this whole product do not understand the like cognitive dissonance happening here.
So did you talk about,
or they do, and that's the point? I don't know.
Did you talk about the developer like history of this when you did the first episode?
A little bit. We talked about the creative lead, who Matt Galt, our previous guest, had like.
But yeah, but not really like Treyarch as a whole. No,
so I won't dwell on this too long. I think it's an interesting thing of like, why when you fight the Vietnamese does it feel so kind of like, numb and gamey. So Treyarch used to be 2 companies. Like, there was Treyarch, which had done all the Spider-Man stuff and whatever, but they had folded into an FPS developer called Grey Matter for this. And what Grey Matter had done previously was return to Castle Wolfenstein, which was like the previous Wolf reboot that had been done. But they had cut their teeth on shit like Rednet Rampage and like all these early.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. So they've been around for a long time. I mean, I think what gets them Call of Duty, funnily enough, is, well, Castle Wolfenstein, obviously, they had done it for Activision, but they're one of these like developers who all kind of touched the orb of id Software, because they had done the mission packs for Quake 2. And I think that's kind of what puts them in the vision of, well, you should work on Call of Duty, because that's built on id Tech. But a bit like Raven Software, you kind of see this thing of like, oh, in your heart and in your hands, you are still very much old school FPS developers where you're literally fighting cardboard cutouts. Like, that's what the enemy sprites were in Doom. They're just like, monsters, essentially. But that doesn't work when you then bring the fidelity and bring this historical baggage with you of, is Vietnam,
Exactly. And man, I just feel like people who work on Call of Duty, not fucking lighting artists or whatever, like clearly creative people who are making key creative decisions. In a lot of cases, they're either outright lying, that they don't think about this, or they're not thinking about it, and it's like becomes such a rote excuse. But it's like, you have to start thinking about what you're putting in this game. This game's almost 15 years old, and it's like Call of Duty has not got better with things like this. Like, it's clear there's no consideration or care put into like the set dressing, which is like, you can't use something like Vietnam, which is like famously bad compared to wars, or at least publicly, the way we talk about it. Like, that's no longer an excuse. Like, this isn't John Romero in his garage making games with his friends anymore. Like, it's insane to me.
Well, I wonder, I wonder if that was part of the motivation for going to the future, is that you could essentially have conflicts that had no historical baggage. Sure. I mean, they still do, but like, yeah, it's curious because they went there and then they kind of went back, and at least the current crop of modern warfares really do try to they're not setting themselves in like real countries or around real conflicts, but they do try to like be kind of grabby attention stuff. I mean, it's like Modern Warfare 3 had like another no Russian in it, which was about like a suicide bomber.
They went back to Vietnam and Black Ops Cold War.
That's right. Yeah.
So like they're still doing shit like this. It's just
yeah. I mean, and here's the thing: people hated the future shit, so it's like their audience wants this. I think that is part of it. It's like people remember this game fondly. You know, the little piggies want their slop. Like that's kind of how these games get sold.
And it's bizarre because like you can tell it from this one, and they put it in the next ones where it's just kind of like, again, it's, you know, I'm sure you interview them and they have this kind of like empty response to it of like, gameplay comes first, fun comes first, then we think of everything else. But if that's the case, why are you putting Robert McNamara in this game? Why is Black Ops 2 got Oliver North in it?
Right.
Like a guy that you would have to go on a Wikipedia page and go, oh, the Iran-Contra affair guy.
Yeah.
Why is he in a Call of Duty game?
I think this game has mass shooter vibes, but I also think like it has, to Jacob's earlier point, like your friend's dad who's really into the military but has clearly never thought about the dudes he reads books about. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like read like Tom Clancy-esque novels about the military, never really can like it has that kind of vibe going for it as well.
It's Soldier of Fortune. Like that's the thing. The Soldier of Fortune 1 is so much this game is Blops 0.0. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I think it's like for a while, you know, for basically its whole history, Call of Duty has been calling on cinematic depictions of war as much as war. And excuse me. You know, it's like World War II films, and then you have COD 4, which is very much a Black Hawk Down kind of movie. And this is, I mean, the Russian roulette scene is just like a stupid version of the Deer Hunter scene. Yeah, you know, it's just, what if we made Deer Hunter fucking idiotic? And so, like, I think they are just kind of repeating tropes, and then after, like, on a long enough timeline, the tropes that they are repeating are just themselves, you know, so they're like, well, we're doing this because this is what a Call of Duty game does. They kind of become their own object of inspiration. And so it's like, at no point in that, I feel like, and here's the thing, they do brag about talking to military personnel. Like, they're like, hey, you know why, like, the Russians roll when you're, like, shooting at them is because they say they talked to an expert and they said the Russians would roll in this game. And so it's like, they do brag about historical fidelity to a point, or at least that they talk to soldiers, but, like, there's very little self-examination, because I just think that they view themselves as like, we're making the genre, and the genre is either like old war movies or the genre is like Call of Duty, and in none of that are you like, what is the actual message of seeing these human beings run like insects down a hill and mowing them down with an M40?
Yeah, also, like, the United States military has the stock in these games. Like, we have to always remember that. It's like,
well, that's... I do want to talk about this, because this is something that people say, and, like, I would like to see where has that been, like, truly explicitly said or proven? Because, like, there was a time when Call of Duty actually, like, stopped doing deals with, like, arms manufacturers. Like, they were like paying them, and now they don't do that anymore. And so it very much, it feels true, but I that's one of those things where it's like, I don't necessarily want to keep repeating it if it is just something that we've kind of all decided without evidence.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that when people say they have military advisors involved, they also must think that, oh, they must be whispering in their ears or whatever, or it's kind of a thing of like, maybe somebody, like maybe some old army colonel gave a soundbite once of like, oh, Call of Duty is the best thing that's happened to the military since World War II in regards to like recruitment drives.
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that they are mutually beneficial, but like, and there is like, whenever like a movie makes something that includes like a jet or a tank,
like Top Gun.
Obviously the military is involved, but like, I just don't know. People do repeat, like, well, these games, you know, they're basically like written by the military, and I think that's actually easier than like, actually they're just written by people who, like, they don't need to be bought because this is just their worldview.
For sure. But I think, like, the military has, like, very vested interests in Call of Duty.
Yes, I'm sure. And you posted
like,
this.
Maybe using the term stock in Call of Duty is, like, incorrect and maybe not how I should refer to it, but, like, a clear vested interest is, like, undeniable.
And I'm not saying this to be like, Blake, you're wrong, but, like, this is something that I've heard people say so many times, and I don't think there's ever been just, like, true evidence of, like, the U.S. Army is involved in the writing of these games, and I don't think they need to be, because I do think that this is just how a lot of people see, like, I don't think they need to buy this version of Vietnam. For sure. You know, that's just what people think it was.
That being said, though, I do think this game gives a weird expectation of Vietnam of that, because it is so easy to blow up millions of Vietnamese. You do kind of go, how come we didn't win Vietnam if it was this easy? If it was just stealing a helicopter with your best bullets,
right? Yeah, they do make it like it feels like kind of imperialist in a very old style way, where it's like you are going to people who have lesser technology and you are just wiping them off the map.
I mean, historically, I think Vietnam as a country and just as a people have always been painted kind of savagely and backwards and, you know, like not as modern as
fighting dishonorably,
us in the West or whatever. Exactly. And, like, I don't know much about Vietnam, I'm gonna be honest. I do know we lost the fucking war, so and I'm gonna like clearly
I'm gonna assume that it's not like this game where it's like playing it's like it feels like you're a wizard in fucking D&D where you have the tiger print camo light machine gun, and you're basically recreating that one fucking action scene from Predator, where you are literally ripping through, like, cots that are made out of, like, sticks and stones. And it's like, if this was a cartoon in the 1920s, people would be like, this is a bit much. Like, rein in the racism a bit. Yeah,
and it's always weird because it's like, the Russians in this game are all the bad guys. It's very murky, but, like, they're kind of cool. They're still kind of, like, badass and sexy.
No, they are
cool.
Certainly characterized and it's like you go to very differently.
Yeah, it's so, like, blatant, right? And I think that's, like, what sticks in my side about it. It's like, it's not like something I'm, like, trying to scratch at to find. It's like the game is this is the loudest game ever.
Yeah.
And it's like screaming it in your face, because it's like the second I go to a different country and there's like some Russian dudes who are like building chemical bombs, it's like, they're kind of cool. They're like a James Bond villain. They're kind of sexy. It's wild.
You know what I thought one of the most heinous plot points of this is that it's like a blink and you'll miss it line, like everything in the mission briefings, where they just kind of say words at you and you tune it out. But, like, they say that one of the things that they have to do in Vietnam, and why they have to stop Kravchenko or the other guy, is that he's spraying nerve gas all over Vietnam. And they're like, oh my god, how terrible. Someone is just destroying Vietnamese, towns and communities, and then you go and you get in an Apache helicopter and you shoot 400 missiles into various villages.
You're given a flamethrower.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually, we talked last week with Matthew Galt about, like, the optics of the flamethrower, and because I was comparing, like, this game feels like World at War, and that you're in jungles with fire, and he was like, yeah, but I think flamethrowers were kind of phased out in Vietnam, and it's like, not in this game. In this game, they bring it back as underbarrel gun attachment to your flamethrower under your assault rifle.
Do you want to know a fun detail that I forgot to mention with a flashback? They literally reused the gun models from COD 2. There is a lot of guns in this game that they reuse from previous CODs when they do flashbacks.
Yeah, because they have, like, the MP40 and stuff, right?
Yeah, and even funnier than that, there's guns in this game that are completely anachronistic. You get like a fucking FAMAS, despite the fact that it wouldn't be invented for another 10 years.
I think a lot of that is, like, you're playing the most
tech,
secret. Yeah, it's like, oh, well, they got the FAMAS before everyone else.
Yeah.
In this Vietnam level, there is a scene where you go into, like, a spider hole, which is actually one of the very memorable scenes for me from the first time I played it. And partially it's because Reznov pops up here, and then when they play back all the scenes, they're like, Reznov wasn't really there, you were imagining it. But this time I experienced a bizarre texture glitch.
Oh, so did I.
Okay,
Same.
I think this might
Same.
be every PC
Yes.
copy then.
I think so.
Where when you are in this hole in like pretty much complete darkness, all of the characters render as just completely black. They're just
apart from their
facial hair. And so Reznov looks like just a floating like mustache and goatee. But then the weird thing that I was like, God, I can't not make this a metaphor for the game is you're given a revolver and they're Vietnamese soldiers like jumping out at you, and you shoot them, and the revolver is a high caliber enough that you're like blowing limbs off, and when you blow their limb off, suddenly it gains the color back. It was like the texture glitch stopped happening when you shot it off their body, and I was like, this is too weird. Like, this feels like a statement somehow.
It's like evil unfinished swan. It's like, to find the way ahead, you have to cover the world in blood.
Oh my god. There's another weird moment in these tunnels that I wrote down. I was like, is this a joke where you're Mason and you say, Reznov, which way do I go? And he says, trust your instincts. And then there's an objective marker in one direction, and that's the direction to go. And I was like, is this a fourth wall joke? Like, my instincts are like following the objective marker that says follow?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because they do a lot of fun stuff with if you ever pop into the menu to check the objectives. Like, when you might have said this last week, but when you break out of Fatuka prison, the objectives are literally the number, like, what is number 1? Get out!
Oh,
Number
that is
2,
fun.
get the
No, I
keys.
didn't notice that.
Yeah, they do that a lot, and especially towards the end where, like, reality's coming apart, they're doing, like, creepy Sanity's Requiem style, like, oh, you cannot escape. Brackets, go to the door, kind of thing.
Yes, they are. It's the most cerebral Call of Duty. That's why people like it. Okay, yeah. So then after this this whole spider hole thing, I thought was so funny because, I mean, not funny, but it was weird because you're blowing your way through villages in Nam, and then they just say, gotta clear this tunnel. Why? Why do you have to? Like, who's making you do this? No one. You just have to go in there so you can have a conversation with Reznov and blow some guys' heads off. Go ahead.
Turns out the tunnel was correct, because you get to the end of it, and somehow, despite the fact that they probably weighed like 4 tons, are classic 70s style reel-by-reel computers down in... And again, to go to what you were saying, Blake, about the fact of like how dehumanized the Vietnamese are in this, it looks like space-age technology in this mud hole of like, oh my god, the Russians must be here, because they're the only ones with technological superiority, and it's like, oh, come on, guys. Like,
yes. And so the level after that is the boat one that we've talked about quite a bit. It is funny when Reznov just keeps popping up, where it's like you've been on this boat for like 5 minutes, you've never seen him, and then a bunch of people are walking off the boat, and he also walks off the boat. It is like, and then there's the scene where he like opens the helicopter door as you're drowning, and it's just like, okay, knowing that he's fake, it is like a funny bit that this keeps happening. I wrote down, there are snipers in the trees in this level. And
I wrote that as well.
It's taken exactly from World at War. They're just reusing an enemy type there.
Yeah, and the exact same anime. Well, I don't know if it's the exact same, but in both games, when you kill them, it drops them down.
Yep.
And they hang from the tree, which is particularly dehumanizing.
Well, the way that I written it down, I described it as, and again, it shows just how much of like old school video game brain they have. The way that they appear in the trees is like an enemy in Sonic the Hedgehog. They burst out.
A lot of these feel, you said the kind of like the Doom and Wolfenstein connections. A lot of this feels like a Serious Sam game. Especially when you're in Vietnam.
It's
Serious Sam has those enemies that just scream and run at you. And it's like, I feel like that's who I'm fighting.
Whenever I see the snipers in the trees in these Call of Duty games, this is a very specific pull. For a video with 148 million views, so probably a lot of people have seen it. Y'all know the J-Rock Kendrick Lamar Future music video for The King Is Dead.
I gotta go get it. Yeah.
It begins with Kendrick Lamar in a palm tree eating an elote, singing the chorus, and I always think about that when I see these dudes in Call of Duty. That's a good song. That's a good music video. Shouts out to them, friends of the show.
So then there's a level that I absolutely had no memory of, which is when you were in a Blackbird stealth jet, and you're kind of RTSing your guys around the map, but then you are zooming down to play as them. I don't think it really works, but it is interestingly experimental.
I did think it was interesting though, because the guy who wrote Blops, the first game that he had made he's a guy from Liverpool, and his first game was an Amiga game called I can't remember what it is, but it's a top-down war. Well, it's basically cannon fodder. It's a top-down you move guys around sort of shooting game. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wonder if that was in the back of his mind for hey, this little gameplay section, which can be our version of the what do they call the AC-30s from Modern Warfare? It's neat.
I don't think it's very good, but it is cool the way it's jumping back and forth between the two settings.
It's a key presentation, and it's again, if you're going to do 60s, 70s retro stuff, get the plane that the X-Men fly in there. That's a big memorable part of it.
That was a level where it's just I have no idea why this is happening. I was really trying to trace the story, and when they got there, I was just what the fuck are we doing? How did we get here? What are any of these characters trying to do here?
Because you're playing as Hudson in that, because basically Hudson is also looking for the Nova 6, and they're going to they had been told by Dr. Clark, go here. Basically, it's in a mountain. Fine, we will. And so and that's why you're doing all the rappelling stuff, which gave me weird Death Stranding vibes for some reason. But that's why you're going through all the snow and rappelling into the bait. Very kind of cool James Bondy sort of section, which I thought was neat.
Also kind of Battlefield games that probably hadn't come out yet, but Battlefield, both Bad Company 2 and 3 had those very kind of big snowy levels.
I didn't know how rappels worked.
Oh, neither did I initially.
No, it just fell right to
I
the
died
ground.
so many times. Yeah, because I was I just brake before I hit the ground. I never considered it's a gradual process getting to that ground.
Okay, so we eventually find out this is one of those things where it's this seems like a major plot point, but we're getting a sentence of it in a dizzying mission briefing scene where the numbers are communist sleeper cells based all over America. We're just okay, I guess that is a given, that there are communist sleeper cells all over America, and that the numbers activate them. Yeah. And I was so this is kind of what the whole game is about. But if I wasn't paying attention for that 10 seconds, I would have just completely missed it.
Yeah. And it doesn't really match up with it's really important that Mason knows the numbers and he can he seems to be a weird key to it. It mostly seemed Mason, can you just tell us what the numbers mean? And you're going to be it's a number station off the coast of Cuba and it's going to activate people. But then it also seems no, because Mason knows the numbers, he's going to be the guy who activates them. And it's that's not explained very well, but sure, okay. I'll buy into this plot if it's exciting.
I like this plot point. I think it's cool from a weird techno espionage.
Oh yeah,
point
sure.
of view. I think it's kind of a neat thing. I wish it was explored more. I wish there were cutscenes in the fucking game where there's a dude just in Dover, Delaware, chilling. And then,
he hears the
numbers. Then he hears the numbers and he's oh dude, they could have gone so hard with this section.
Honestly, and they might do that in Black Ops Cold War or something. I haven't played it.
Oh, true, yeah.
Okay, so then there's this deer hunter scene where they're playing Russian roulette,
and they kill Ice Cube.
They kill
That's
Bowman.
Ice Cube?
Oh yeah, didn't you know that was Ice Cube?
Yeah, because he's one of the announcers in the multiplayer too, right?
Yes. I feel sorry for him because they basically just did hire him and say, "Hey, do you remember Lester Holt from Gears of War?" Yeah. And they just hand him the script, and that's all he does is just shouts out cool grunts, basically.
I did not realize.
If you go to his wiki article on the Call of Duty wiki, the quote at the top is, "You don't scare me, communist piece of shit. Bowman's last words." It's all right.
Yeah.
famous last words.
He dies in a pretty horrible way. Just like watching someone die to like blunt force cranial trauma is like, I didn't enjoy it.
Y'all see Long Legs?
Nope,
Not yet.
spoilers.
Not really.
I don't know. I do run the Internet Movie Cranial Damage database, so I might need to put that on
It's like,
there.
does the dog die? But it doesn't. Does anyone get hit in the head really hard in this movie?
It's like, I mean, Jacob, I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever gone on the Internet Movie Firearms database, where if you want to see, hey, what's the gun that they used to kill Bruce Wayne's parents?
No, but that's really interesting.
You can look it up, and bam, it's like a 1911. It's like, cool. Thanks for letting me know.
I honestly, I might use that in the future. That is like a really
that's a useful resource.
It's like I probably don't want to meet the person who maintains it, but like that is a cool thing to have.
Jacob, what if you already have met him?
Oh,
it's me, brother. My southern
this
heritage
is
coming out.
why
I love them guns.
Look, whenever you've like missed a deadline on something, it's because you're like, sorry, boss, I just got to put that this was an M16 in this movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, Michael Mann just released a new movie. My week is shot.
Yeah, you have to go through Ferrari and see how many guns he uses.
Yeah. I was thinking Heat, which came out 30 years
Alright,
ago,
yeah.
but you know, it's fine.
Hey, Heat 2 next year. Can't wait.
I guess that's true.
Heat 2 sounds like this summer. Okay, so there's this deer hunter scene where they just play Russian roulette. It's remarkable how almost exactly it is the beats.
It's the deer hunter scene, but is written by, like, again, a stupid Facebook boomer dad where he goes, yeah, but like if I knew the bullet was in the gun, I would shoot them, kind of thing.
Well, okay, I did actually just look this up. In Deer Hunter, he does shoot a guy with the revolver as well.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
So it is, but like, then it's even
slow
less
motion.
creative.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, and it doesn't happen in slow motion. Shortly after you escape with Woods, they come across a helicopter, and he has some line about that he's like impressed with how many weapons the helicopter has on it, and I was like, you've been using a crossbow with an explosive tip. You're impressed by this helicopter? Though actually, maybe chronologically that happened. No, I think that happened before.
Yeah.
That happened before.
Yeah, you know, you have the crossbow when you go to the level where it's like a Russian space base, which looks like fucking Mars.
Yeah, so that you get in the helicopter, you kill a bajillion people.
It's honestly it's honestly fucking fun, which I hate to say it, but it
is good fun.
It's really fun.
It is, you know, it's one of these Call of Duty things where like there's the experience of getting in a helicopter in like a Battlefield game where you get in it and then you immediately crash because like a helicopter is hard to fly. But in this, it's so funny where you just have your other characters like, I'll take it over the trees, then hand over control to you. Where it's like, you're playing in 2 dimensions. You know, like there, you don't have to go
like
up
a
or down
cat.
at all. Yeah, it's fun. Okay, so then we're we're flashing back to Mason being interrogated, this whole thing. One of the... Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you like when he's being interrogated that you can tell that the guy who plays him is fucking Sam Worthington from Avatar? Because when he is shouting, like, whatever American accent he had previously, that is just gone. So when they're just like, what's the numbers face? And he's just like, I don't know what the numbers are, mate. I can't explain it to you.
I didn't notice that. I do kind of like the performance when he's just getting so pissed that he doesn't. He's like, Mason, stay focused. And Mason keeps like just drifting off to like another memory of a just goes off to sleep that he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you play the mission where Mason and Reznov, in quotes, go to kill Steiner.
Rebirth Island.
And this is when, yes, the fittingly named. This is when I just started trying to figure out what are they doing with Reznov, like. You know, because in Fight Club, even in Manhunt 2, the character that you hallucinate that is in fact part of your own personality is an aspect of that personality that the person feels unable to express. You know, Tyler Durden can do what Ed Norton can't. And in this, I was like, what is Reznov? And he has lines where Reznov says, you know, like, he says, what's left to believe in when you're betrayed by your own? And he's like, all I'm left with is anger and vengeance. But I was like, does that apply to Mason? Like, Mason hasn't even really been betrayed. No. You know, so I couldn't figure out, like, why. I guess Mason was betrayed because he was, like, left in Vorkuta instead of being rescued. But, like,
they thought he was dead.
Yeah, it just, like, it seems... I just don't understand, like, why these characters would be paired other than, like, a twist.
No, I think it is just purely... like, again, I was trying to think of that as well. It's just, like, what inmate... Because, again, you could read it as kind of, like, he's an American spook, but he... Like, again, like Ed Norton, like, he grows the opposite of a conscience, basically. He grows like a little rebel and he wants to, like, tear everything down. You could almost see Reznov almost being like the angel on his shoulder, being like, you realize that what you're doing is fucked, right? And, like, you need to tear this down. But there's never any introspection of that apart from, oh, there's the tease that you might have killed JFK. Like, a fucking, you know, right. a democratic president that for most people, they kind of liked him, and he, you know, he did the Bay of Pigs, but that's kind of it. And even then,
we'll talk about that implication.
Yeah, but then with the Nova 6 stuff, it's just kind of like, that wasn't like Reznov's, well, I guess it was Reznov's mission more than it was Mason's. So basically, all that's kind of left is basically all Russian people know magic and can, like, you know, they can all implant ideas in your brain, or at least 3 of them are going to do that. But then they're going to go walk away and make a cup of coffee, and Reznov's going to see you with your brain open and go, I'm going to plant an idea in your head.
Right, yeah, because we should be explicit that, like, it is not simply a kind of schizophrenia by Mason. It is like he was being brainwashed by Dragovich, and then Reznov did the same kind of brainwashing on him to kill Dragovich and Kravchenko. So he was programmed by the both. But it's like, that is the literal meaning. But I feel like there has to be some thematic reason why they're tied together. And it just this game has ultimately such faith in America that I'm like, he doesn't have anything again. Like, Mason's fine with the U.S. They've treated him, like, fine, other than, like, torturing him to try to figure out what the numbers are.
Yeah. The only thing I can see of it is just being the fact that it's, like, you have a guy from World War II in your head, and he's basically... Well, he's a big boss at this point. It's... You're no longer fighting for countries, you're fighting on kind of ideas, essentially. But the idea is, we shouldn't have Nova 6.
Yeah. Okay, I agree.
That's the big idea. No more Nova 6. Okay, got it.
Following this is one of the funniest moments of the game, where Hudson says, I have one last card to play, and the one last card to play is coming out and yelling at him. He just comes out and he's like, you have to remember!
Did you mention this in the last episode of that Hudson is the least 1960s looking man in the 1960s?
He looks like Max Payne 3.
Yeah. I said he looked a bit like Pitbull, but no, that is more apt. He looks like a baby dinosaur. Nobody looked like this in the 1960s. Nobody was doing these much weights. It's not right.
And so then you play the same level mission
again, but from
the opposite. This was the part where I was playing this. This
really
isn't
fun.
like a long game, but that level, I was just like, man, I don't need to play this level. Just get me to it.
Oh, it is
you
great.
liked it?
It's so
I mean,
fun.
you're doing like night vision stuff.
You got the fucking like.
You got tanks.
Yeah,
it's fun.
That was so fun. You're going through in a tank, then the Nova 6 is obscuring your vision, so you have like to use a specific scope to be killing people, and then you're like shooting down helicopters with fake ass fucking guided missiles.
You got a glass visor which adds like, hey, even though you have regenerating health in COD, not on this level.
Dude,
cool.
It rocks. It's super good. Sorry, Jacob.
Look, I'll take it. So we find out, Mason was brain programmed, but he couldn't be fully got because the strength of his will.
Because he's so goddamn.
Which is, again, like, almost exactly the point that I made in my COD torture scene video. Is just like, you can't torture the good guys because they're too good, and so they're not susceptible to it. And they just say it.
He's kind of got a Goku thing going on.
That's true. Also, Hudson did say that this was the Russians' attempt to do an MK Ultra, almost like he's like, yeah, but it's not as good as ours.
Right, yeah. It's like, that thing that
they had MK Light, we had MK Ultra. We were doing way better MK than they were.
Yeah, that was interesting. So what happens at the end of this level both times is that either Reznov and Mason, or just Mason, depending on whose perspective you're looking through, get to Steiner, and they kill him. And it's like the U.S. government would have preferred for him to not be dead, but they kill him because, and he yells, "I am Victor Reznov, and I will have my revenge," in Gary Oldman's best fake Russian accent. At this point, I wrote, like, is the interesting thing about this game that it's thematically not about war at all.
No.
That like, it has almost nothing to say about, like, war. It's just kind of like, wouldn't it be crazy if people were brainwashed?
Yeah, it is. It's like a James Bond film. Like, in regards to, like, the James Bonds don't really have, like, yeah, they're set during the Cold War, and he does infiltrate the Russians, but they're not really about what's happening. It's more about guys doing stuff during the war.
Guys doing
you have your friends over, you invade a country to find another guy. It's fine.
Let's see. You have this kind of psychedelic scene, the way the video games always do psychedelic scenes, where it's like, what if there were things floating in the air? But I do think it's kind of cool when, like, you're walking down this hallway, you're kind of doing, like, a Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain thing, where you're, like, staggering around and, like, holding onto the wall. The roof flies off. You see a big spaceship taking off. That's cool. I don't know what it means, but it was cool.
Cool,
it was the spaceship from earlier that you saw take off, but I guess this one actually got to do it.
Yeah, so. There are numbers on the walls, and then you look at them, and they're like flashing numbers at you.
You end up in a boardroom, and it's really unclear what you're supposed to do. It turns out you're just supposed to stand there for 5 minutes. Watch a looping video for a while.
And you watch Reznar's PowerPoint presentation.
And then Hudson just shows up and he says, "Now that your brainwashing is broken." And I was like, is it? It does not seem broken to me.
I've never felt more mentally sound than hallucinating harder than anyone ever has.
Go ahead.
Mason goes, "I know where the numbers station is. It's on it's a boat that's docked in Cuba."
Yes, and then I wrote all caps, "Oh my god, it is about Havana Syndrome. This game is fully about Havana Syndrome. It's about Cuba sending coded messages to fuck with CIA agents' heads."
Oh my god, that's why you can get the microwave gun in later playthroughs of that game, just like the Havana.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, for people who aren't interested in stupid politics, Havana Syndrome is when, like, U.S. agents say that, like, Cuba's broadcasting things to mess with their minds. It's just like
more specifically, it was soldiers, CIA spies that were in Havana were all getting depression because obviously he was catching up with them what they were fucking doing for a living, and the CIA went, "Oh god, they must have invented a depression beam. That's amazing."
Yeah,
like.
It's just so I could not believe it. I was just like beside myself. And then what happens? So Mason has this vision. He sees the ship. The ship says like Rusalka, and he remembers being handed to Castro. And then you come back to the present. Mason says Cuba. There's a guitar riff. It goes boom, and then Hudson puts on his sunglasses.
Like he's Duke fucking Nukem.
Yeah, like he's the beginning of what's his name in every episode of CSI.
Oh yeah.
Numerous times in this game, a little guitar riff will play, and it's like, obviously, you're supposed to be like, pretty fucking sick.
It's the same as like how randomly when you fight certain enemies, you'll get a slow motion bullet kill. Like you get it the first time with
Castro,
fake Castro, but then you keep getting them randomly throughout.
It's just like random.
It's not really punctuation.
Viet Cong soldier.
Every every time those guitar riffs popped in, dumbest shit I've ever
Cuba.
seen. Like it never lands. Yeah.
So then it turns out, the broadcast station, it's on the ship. It's gonna wake up all the sleeper agents. You blow the absolute shit out of this boat with a helicopter. Again, it's pretty cool. I remembered, I was like, oh, this was a multiplayer level. And I kind of forgot that, like, that's why it was there.
Same with Rebirth Island. Warzone players know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Rebirth Island, by the way, an actual real island that no longer exists due to coastal erosion.
Oh, cool. Good,
Yeah.
Good world.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you get on this boat. It turns out the big broadcast station is actually below the boat, so you scuba dive down. Again, it's pretty cool. I like
cool.
seeing how big that thing is. It feels like a Metal Gear thing, honestly.
Yeah, James Bond vibes off the charts.
Yes.
So I was like, they're gonna bring it home.
Yeah, so you're fighting through. You're just killing guys. I'm kind of over the like first person gameplay at this point. Dragovich finally pops up. It's funny because the cutscene or the subtitles say all caps 2 exclamation points Dragovich, and Mason's delivery is like Dragovich. And I died in that scene because it's a quick time event, and so I saw it happen multiple times. You fight Dragovich, first person. You're like draining him. You're whatever. Then
slyly reveals
this is the line of
did
the game.
Or are gonna kill the president.
Mason yells, "You tried to make me kill my own president," and Dragovich slyly says, "Tried," and then you kill him, and we are left with the question: Did Mason kill Kennedy? And then we'll talk about it.
yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So you ascend from this thing. Seemingly
with water.
Yeah, without scuba gear, I was like, he's gonna have the worst case of the bends anyone has
He's
ever
gonna be
had.
dead from the bends. Big bends.
You swim up like 300 feet in a matter of seconds. Then this is you get picked up. You're on a boat. This guy says, "We won." And then Mason says, "For now." And there are like 12 battleships, and jets do a flyover. I do remember that there was a time when video gamers were asked to vote on the best ending of a video game. It was for the Guinness World Records 2012 Gamers Edition. And the first place was Call of Duty Black Ops. The best ending of any video game.
MGS2, forget it. Shadow of the Colossus, boring.
No, the second was Halo Reach, which would be a great choice. But no, Call of Duty Black Ops.
Reach is a better FPS ending, that's for sure. Halo 3 is a better FPS. Oh.
Yeah. Third place, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Fair enough.
That's always stuck in my head. It's been like the best ending to any video game
ever made. Never gonna beat Black Ops 1, where the entire Navy has turned up to congratulate you for punching a guy under the water.
But then, honestly, the thing that happens next does maybe make it the best ending of all time in, like, this is the flattest anyone's ever flattened my dick kind of way. Suddenly, the game's over. Ominous music plays. You are watching real footage of John F. Kennedy. It is not the Zapruder film, but it feels pretty close to it. They keep playing it over and over, and then they pause and zoom to reveal that they have Forrest Gumped Mason into the crowd of the JFK, like the day of his assassination. Or like he's Jack in The Shining, like they put him in that picture. And I was
going to say Forrest Gump is giving it too much credit. They have like dodgily photoshopped a
it's like I could Photoshop
CGI character.
Yeah, and then the worst credits of all time play. over just a PNG of the like Black Ops guy
of Woods with his guns
for the devil. I again, like the Havana Syndrome thing, I just couldn't believe it that they're just like the end. They're like, and hey, maybe you killed Kennedy. I fought the law.
And then Jacob told me to stick around to the second song in the credits, and I said, okay, I will. And then I actually saw what the credits were, and I said, fuck you, Jacob. No, I'm not.
But then the fun thing is that you finish the credits, and don't worry, Kennedy's actually alive, and he's hanging out with his best mates, Fidel Castro, Robert McNamara, and Richard Nixon.
So I decided to go against my co-host. I said, no, I'm not sitting through these fucking credits. I don't care what's in here. I'm skipping this. And the game said, no. Yeah. It's actually the worst thing you've ever seen in your entire life.
The credits make you do zombies mode with the ropiest impressions I have ever heard any of the people.
It's
including
like a
McNamara.
The character models...
Kennedy, like that.
Dude. Also, did you notice the animations? These characters were running at like 100 frames per second.
I did notice that, yeah.
Like, they moved insane. I did not play the zombies.
No, it is interesting that they literally just throw you into a thing.
A match of zombies.
Anyway, Blake, what you missed is after Sympathy for the Devil.
Oh, I did miss something.
They play the Eminem song "Won't Back Down." Is the second song in the credits, and I had been I had been playing this game on my computer upstairs, and Annie, my wonderful partner, had been putting up with non-stop sounds of machine guns for like 6 straight hours or whatever.
Hold on. Wait,
yes.
You don't play games with headphones on?
No, I need to be able to escape. If I have headphones, I'm trapped in there with them. She had been doing stuff, but anyway, she had been fine with it. As soon as this Eminem song starts playing, she just yells up like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
How loud are you playing? How loud are you playing?
It's not that loud, but like you can hear that they're guns. Yeah. If she asked me to put on headphones or close the door or whatever, I gladly would.
But she said, "What the fuck is that?" You went to turn the volume down. She said, "No, don't turn
that shit up. I love Eminem.
Yo, turn that all the way up.
Crank it, brother.
I'm feeling like a rap god right now. Holy shit."
Okay, so yeah, I did not realize there was an Eminem song in the credits. I would have been even
That's
more
what
mad
I wanted
you.
to get to.
Was it?
The zombies level started. I took 2 steps and then said, "What the fuck am I doing?" And I turned the game off.
I wanted to play. I kind of wanted to play a round of zombies before we recorded this.
You know what? I played a round of it. I thought it was okay. I liked the fact that he had again Duke Nukem style. He had Duke Nukem style JFK one-liners.
The only thing we have to fear is my gat. Bop, bop.
Yeah. A bullet in every head and a car in every home.
I am such not a student of history and such a student of The Simpsons that whenever I hear the real John F. Kennedy or even fake John F. Kennedy and he's not saying between every sentence, I'm like, it sounds like so weird to me. I'm like, he's not talking right. That's not what he is.
You want to naturally add the pauses in for JFK.
Yeah, like I'm so used to Mayor Quimby and so not used to the real fucking history.
Do you have the same thing with Reagan where you expect him to say excellent all the time like Mr. Burns?
I think, James, have you watched the Wet Hot American Summer like TV show?
I haven't even seen the film yet.
Oh, okay.
I need to get
I thought that might be up your alley. It's the movie is incredibly funny. The TV show is pretty good, but they do eventually introduce a Reagan into the show, and I always think about, he's doing like the hammiest Reagan impression I've ever seen, and then as he's walking out of the room, he like shoves his hand into a jar of jelly beans so hard that they fly out, and he just shoves like 30 in his mouth. And that's always what I think of with impressions of presidents now.
It's really good.
Yeah,
that's great.
And look, he wasn't the only Reagan shoving things in their mouth.
Your dog?
That's true.
No, famously, Jacob, Nancy Reagan sucked dick real good.
She was the first goat.
Famously, she sucked mean dick.
And you
that
know
was
what?
the joke there, brother.
And you know what? Reagan was in Black Ops Cold War. So
yes, he was.
It all ties around.
And they never showed what was under the desk, so we can only speculate.
Jesus Christ. That's Call of Duty Black Ops. As this is going to sound insane at the end of this. As much as we talked about how this is an evil game, I do think it is. I do think it stands out. Like, I think that it is. It is in the kind of sea of Call of Duty campaigns. This is a fairly distinctive one for both the focus on characters and like the just strange swings that it's taking. Like, I think it fails thematically in almost everything it tries, but like I remember it.
Noticeably insane.
Yeah, which
compared to every other Call of Duty
the relative like thing you're comparing it to is Call of Duty. It's like that is saying something.
It is bonkers.
Yeah. I'll give it this, which is the fact, and like also taking into context like the year that this came out and like other FPS games of it. This is what I would want of Call of Duty, which is, we're the biggest game on the market. We have all this money, and hey, the army will let us like scan guns and whatever. Why don't we make something like a Black Ops where we're winking with one eye, being like, "Well, this didn't really happen, though, did it?" But you're literally like you're using the opportunity of what you have and all the fun that you can do with it to like. Yeah, I mean, like a really interesting and fun campaign.
I mean, it's like the trailers for Black Ops 6 have someone like driving out of the Capitol building on a motorcycle and like jumping over cars, and I was like, that is kind of what I want. You know, like if you're gonna make a Black Ops game, it should be just fucking gonzo like this, and ideally just like 1000% less racist. Like if I could pick one thing to change,
should also start Gonzo from the
that
West.
would be good.
Jeff
Keighley would love that shit.
You know what I wish? I just wish we lived in an alternate universe where like we got these like $1 billion FPS games, but they were just Serious Sam games, and you didn't have to feel bad about playing them.
I think the CODs get close to it. Again, I think with Raven Software working on Blob 6, like, you kind of already saw a little bit of that in Cold War. Like, a little bit of the Doom magic is still there. And it's bad when they're saying, like, the imps are Vietnamese people, but it's cool when they give you, like, the giant nuclear gun and say, Kennedy gave you that.
Though, right. What I'm saying is just, like, replace all the racism with like demons from Serious Sam,
and don't set it in America. Then, like, set it in Serious Sam world, which is weirdly like Egypt.
Whatever
sometimes.
world that was.
Yeah, that's true. No, I think the appeal with Call of Duty has always been that slight bit of historical accuracy that it has. Like in Call of Duty 1, where you didn't have like the CGI mission briefings, you had letters home from the front line, Ken Burns style. And I think if you just have that tiny bit of historical just grounding in it of, like Kennedy turns up, but it is stupid, let's go to space. Like, because isn't the ship in Infinite called like the HMS like Hillary Clinton or something stupid like that?
They had a Barack Obama. They had a Hillary
Clinton. The USS Barack Obama in Blops 2. Like, that's all you need, really. I think that's the juice for why people like COD, because it's one, again, FPS games come out of, like, dungeon crawler games. At their heart, they are always fantasy, and it's just how much of the fantasy do you want to really step into? And in the something awful, the something rotten kind of thing, it's just like, when does the fantasy then create this weird narrative of like turning people into monsters essentially, and dehumanizing them?
Yeah, which is a really interesting place to kind of start for the next game that we're playing, Spec Ops: The Line, which is a game that is very specifically about those things. Blake,
yes,
I'm excited for you to play this game. I hope that you get a kick out of it.
I've never played it. Yeah, I've never played it. Yeah.
James,
I hope.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I hope you play it, but but you have no interest in the themes. It is purely the gameplay side of it, and you just want to talk about.
I love how there's a slow-mo headshot. Yeah.
So what did you do with the sand? Like, did you, did you create piles here or there?
I used it to kill a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the gameplay only Spec Ops: The Line playthrough. James, thank you so much for coming on Something Rotten. This feels like it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad that I was able to. I mean, I'm sure you would have been a lovely guest on any game that we covered, but getting you on a kind of bullet time adjacent title felt important. We've mentioned bullet time. Your YouTube channel, which is Hotcyder, posts honestly remarkably frequently for all the other projects that you have going on. Is there anything else that you want people to know about?
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, firstly, thank you for having me on there and actually giving me an opportunity to play a Call of Duty game, something that we would never do on Bullet Time because, I mean, the joke is we say they're too popular, so it's kind of like it wouldn't be a good fit, but just like, so many games we covered have been in the spectrum of Call of Duty that actually covering one has been like kind of an interesting thing. And you know what? I even did extra credits of trying other versions of this game. I played the DS one.
No!
I've not got a lot of interest. Yeah, I haven't got like a ton of interesting thing to say about it, apart from if you wanted to imagine what this game looked like if it had come out in the year 2000, play the DS version
that is
of...
fascinating.
Like, not just graphically, I also mean in terms of tone. Like, you play as, like, little 60s guys who you're constantly trying to chase after Mason or whatever, but you are, like, proper soldiers doing proper soldiers' conduct. It is so weird.
It's so weird. I mean, our friend Dennis, aka Lamhoot, has a great older video about playing Call of Duty 4 on the Wii and like the weird multiplayer strategies that happened, which were like very different than the other, you know, like the console multiplayer. So I love that weird port shit.
Yeah. The Wii version of this, I played a bit of that. It is identical apart from lower frame rate and motion controls.
Oh.
The DS version, though, it is like looking at this game from another universe. It is neat, but not a Something Rotten game, is what I would say about that. But no, in terms of things that people can check me out on, there's Bullet Time. We've stopped updating for a moment, but we are getting back to doing more episodes of that relatively soon. Always uploading to the channel as well. But if you just want to see what I'm up to and shitpost and the like, you can follow me over on X, the website formerly known as Twitter, at hotcyder, HOTCYDER.
And you're in my book coming up.
As,
Blake and I have recently both edited you, and I think your section in the book is a really cool little look at kind of the thumbnail creation process.
I'm really excited. Not only am I really excited to see that physically, I'm excited because I think it's going to be a cool surprise in the book.
Yeah.
So I won't say anything more on that.
All right. That's it, everyone. Thank you for listening to Something Rotten. Next week, if you want to play along with us on Spec Ops: The Line, if you manage to get your hands on that game in some way, we'll be playing up through level 8, which is called The Gate. It's either level 7 or 8, but it's called The Gate. So play up through there if you want to play along with us. And we will see you next time. Bye, everyone. Bye.